We heard a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff in this portion. Um, there's many topics that you can speak about or learn from. I'm going to talk about the very beginning. In the very beginning. Actually, I'm going to talk about last week because it kind of started last week, right? And it talked about Pinchas. And Pinchas, saw something that was obviously not right. And he stepped in and, you know, did what had to be done, I guess, is what we say, right? And by doing that, he took away the anger, right? He took away the anger of Hashem from the people. There was a plague going on, and the plague stopped when he did that. And so I guess, I mean, there's many questions you can ask about this. Like, there's so much going on, but I guess more of a simple, easier question would be to ask, how do we respond to people who we feel maybe being extra zealous for Hashem, going above and beyond maybe what they need to do or what we think they need to do or whatever that case is, or maybe even, we might not even understand what they're doing. That could be it. I mean, with Pinchas, we can see like he was doing something that was right. We knew that what the other people were doing was very evil and wrong. But still, it's a hard lesson. It's hard. So I guess, and another thing is he wasn't a leader, right? He wasn't one of the leaders. He was just like one of the regular guys, right? But he stood up and did that. And so I guess it's almost saying like, even though you're not a leader, you can still step up. But the question is, how do we respond when we see someone that may be doing more above and beyond that we do? Example. I mean, just an easy example would be like, maybe someone prays like, I don't know, they pray like 2-3 hours a day, and you see them and you're like, oh, that's too extreme, right? And there's like a story in the Talmud, I think it is, or one of our sages, and there's like, I can't remember, maybe mom or maybe my wife, Rebbetzin, will remember who it was, but one of our sages, he was talking to one of his, not really a Talmudim, but another not even a scholar, but someone who would pray all day long, like a super long prayer. And he was kind of rebuking him, like the sage was rebuking him, telling him, you don't need to pray like that. It's too much, too extreme. And then, I don't know, there's some kind of other miracles that happened. And this man who was praying so much was given this extra miracle. It was kind of, I can't remember the exact story. I have to go back and look. Was given this extra miracle and was kind of shown to the sage, like, look it, he was praying and that was a good thing, essentially. So Hashem was telling him, don't discourage your disciples or anybody else from, praising me, from praying to me, from doing my work, essentially. So that was a cool story, right? And it kind of shows us, like, even someone who may be around us who is like doing more than we think they need to be doing, or maybe might even like be hurting, like make us feel guilty for not doing it, right? But we shouldn't. We should, accept that they may be wanting to do above and beyond, and we should encourage it, right? And maybe even if that guilty feeling that we have, maybe we should step up too, that kind of thing. So that's what we learn. Here in Numbers 25, verse 11, it says, Hashem says, Pinchas, son of Eleazar, the son of Aharon, the priest, has turned my anger away from the children of Israel by his zealously avenging me among them, so that I did not destroy the children of Israel in my jealousy. So he's acknowledging him. I think he made him a priest because of this, and he also said something like he's going to live a long life, or it could be midrash. One of the midrashes says he's never going to die, but I'm not sure. I think it just meant give him a long life, right? And so we have some other things about this that can just to understand from this lesson. So In the Talmud, we have Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, who taught this lesson. He said, when you see a student whose studies are as hard as iron, it is because his teacher did not show him a pleasant countenance. So also the reverse is true. When we see someone who is learning flows like honey, whose services radiate joy, we must ask ourselves, are we creating an environment that nurtures such devotion? So you could either be hard and strong, or you can be kind and sharing, right? This is the lesson that we can learn from as being teachers and students. And then Yeshua, our great rabbi, he teaches something of this in a sense. He said, do not look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye, right? That's in Matthew 7, verse 3. And that's usually, talking about maybe a sin or something that's wrong that we're doing, but it can also be in the reverse and saying like, don't look at somebody's extra good deeds and say they are too much and yours are fine or whatever. You know what I mean? You got to do a reverse of it sometimes and look at the other way around and saying maybe that don't think of that someone that's doing extra is not good. You want to look at it as being good too. So it works both ways. And then we also have this a great quote in the Pirkei Avot, which says, "Judge all men in the scale of merit." So give people the benefit of the doubt. Give them if they may be doing something that we think is extra or wrong or whatever it is, give them the benefit of the doubt. Seek out what they're really doing, and oftentimes you'll see that there may be earnestly following Hashem. And if it's not against Torah, there's nothing against Torah. Why would you stop them? Why would you try to prevent them or hinder them in any way? And I think possibly maybe if you do try to hinder somebody who's trying to like go above and beyond, and you may be feeling guilty as well. Maybe that one of the reasons that you're trying to stop them is maybe you might be feeling guilty for that. Could be one reason. Maybe you just think it's maybe too much. I mean, I could think of reasons why I would not hinder, but tell people to not do something. I have a good example. One of our brothers in India, he was a regular. He had a regular job and stuff, but then he got very passionate to follow Hashem, right? And so he quit his job, and he was working for another minister. They were actually having, I guess they had enough income in a sense to pay him a little bit, so he was working full time for this ministry, but it was still not enough income for him to support his family, and so he did it for a while, but his wife was very unhappy, and there was just like all kinds of issues and stuff happening. And so my advice to him was like, I know you want to serve, but there's a lot of rabbis, a lot of teachers out there that actually work a regular job and then do this as their like side hustle. They do this as something that it's inside them. They want to serve Hashem, but they also have to serve their family too, right? And so I told him this, explained, I'm like, that's what I do, and so, you can do this as well. And because they already had a full-time teacher there, and they could only afford to really pay only one, they couldn't afford, they have a pretty big congregation, but it's a poor congregation, so they just can't afford it. So that was my advice to him, and I think things are much better. He was contacting me, not too long ago and saying things are better. His wife came back. His wife left him for a little while because it was too crazy. His wife came back. He's able to, provide for his family. And so that would be one instance maybe where you would do the opposite of what this whole talk is about. But if there is nothing stopping that person, like say they want to pray and it's not going to hinder them from taking care of their family, it's not going to hinder them from doing other things, then let them go above and beyond and increase them and learn from them. So for me, in my experience, growing, learning Judaism, there's some things that I'm like, I come to it in a kind of a negative view. I'm like, why would you want to do that? Why is it this extra rule? Or, why would I want to, go beyond, go above and beyond when I don't really need to, but then as you dig into it and you learn about it, you see like a lot of the, um, it's a lot of the meaning behind some things, right? Simple thing would be like, I don't know, lighting the Shabbat candles or something, right? It's not in Torah. It's not commanded for us to do that, but what's wrong? What's wrong with it? Is there anything wrong with it? If there's so much beauty in it, and if you're starting your Shabbat and you're setting a specific, you're setting a symbol saying we're starting Shabbat. There's many other beautiful things about it that I don't have the list of them, but that's just like one example of things that are maybe above and beyond. And you may, even for myself, be like, that wasn't commanded there. I don't need to do that kind of stuff. But there's nothing wrong with it, and I think that happens to us. And I'm not sure why, but I would say don't let that happen to Protestantism, right? Protesting. We're just protesting against any power that's trying to control us. That happens, But just dig into it a little more. I would say give it a chance, give things a chance, learn about it, and learn and try. Actually, when you meet someone that is zealous like that, just learn why they're so zealous. Because sometimes, the story behind it is almost more powerful than just the way they are, So of what they're doing. So that's my lesson. So. I guess a practical application for this is when you do encounter somebody that is doing above and beyond, um, um, take some time to learn what they're doing, and instead of being critical of them, just learn. Be curious instead. Instead of being critical, be curious. Ask questions. Find out why they're doing it. And I think that happens a lot of times from a Christian coming in and learning a lot about Judaism. Because when I encounter an Orthodox Jew, they are doing like way more than me, like way more. But I'm very, before I was like kind of like that's too much. But now I'm very curious, like why do you want it? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Why do you have to do it this way? And I just try to ask them questions. And a lot of times they have really good answers. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's like I don't think they're good answers, but it's at least you're learning. You're learning about it, So that's the thing. That's the key. The key is being learning and not just throw it out, as soon as you learn about it, hear about it, see it happen. So that's the lesson. So may we all be able to be I wouldn't say extra, but be devoted to Hashem, be wanting to learn about Him, sharing our truth, the truth that we know about Him, and by doing this, maybe hasten the second coming of Mashiach to this world. So that's my draw.